Dr. John Schueller, if he's available with us. He's associated with University of Florida, and he's one of the distinguished speakers of this session. Sir, are you with us?
Yes, thank you very much. I
You're welcome,
appreciate the opportunity to talk. Punjab higher education has really had a great effect on my wife's family. Her father was a graduate of Government College Lahore. Her mother's cousin, I.K. Gujaral, became Prime Minister of India, having graduated from Foreman Christian. My wife's only brother-in-law is the son of Kuldeep Nair, a famous journalist in India who also graduated from Punjab universities. So I have a very strong appealing because whether you agree with their politics, maybe you agree, maybe you don't, but in any effect, they were very well educated and very knowledgeable people. And that's an advantage of your university. I find the same thing with the graduates from your university. I've had some names very common, Naveed Khan and so on, my students, and they have been very well educated. But we always need to make the students better. Uh, we need to make sure also that not just the few that come abroad are properly educated. And from all your institutions, you have many institutions. Now, the previous speakers have said a lot of what I would normally say, and instead of boring you, I won't say the same thing. And you have local people who are smarter than me and know your local situation better than me. But you're spending the time listening to me talk. I have some experience. I'm over 70 years old. I've, in the US, visited 45 of our 50 states, and I visited over 40 countries, probably about 50 almost. Everything from Sudan and Guatemala to actually working in the more advanced economies of Germany and Japan. So when I look at countries that are similar to Pakistan, I've never been to Pakistan, I admit that. I've talked to, including for this talk, some people, and I've read some. I have, in the short time, because we're already behind schedule, I have 3 concerns I want to express and give my thoughts on them. Maybe you will think and further develop them or realize they're stupid. It's your decision, obviously, to make. One criticism with the education at the university level in many, many countries, and I suspect in Pakistan also, is that there is not enough critical reasoning. And in fact, Professor Nawaz just talked about that effect. So there's too much rote mechanization to pass the exams. And in the modern world, where, as he showed us in the last talk, things are changing fast, we need memorizing ancient stuff isn't the solution. We need to have the ability to use things higher in Bloom's taxonomy, things about questioning, evaluating, designing things. We need these things to be prosperous in a changing world. We survey our students, and I tell my boss that in one class I teach, which is very high tech, if the students say I followed the textbook, I should be fired, because the textbook in high technology areas is outdated by the time it is published. It is no longer relevant. So how do we do this? How do we make sure that the students are exposed to and develop these farther skills? One of the things is, of course, some sort of senior project where they have to do new work. Another thing that sometimes works to get students going on this is to criticize the current research publications, especially if the publications are contradictory. So the students just don't repeat back. They have to question and say, what is better? and which of the two they believe. That gets them to thinking, and I think will be better in order to work in the future. So there may be other ways to encourage thinking outside the box and maybe encouraging more critical reasoning. So the first thing is critical reasoning. The second thing that's a concern in countries that are not at the top of the development scale is often there is not enough hands-on work. Theory is good. My favorite course teaching is control theory, but students need to be able to use contemporary technology. If they're in biology, we're talking about CRISPR. We're talking about computer vision in some fields. We're talking about data analytics in most fields. And as was mentioned in the last talk, we're talking about AI. All these areas, we need the students to use it. This, of course, demands some investment, which is difficult in countries of more limited means. But when I travel to some countries, whether low development, whether high development, whether somewhere in between, often I will see equipment and facilities that are pretty good, but they're not being used. And the problem is, and this was sort of mentioned, I can't remember if it was one of the ambassadors or Professor Nawaz, the problem is getting the faculty up to speed. So this is a problem even with me, that I know it's a problem, and it's a problem I have personally, to keep up with the work. So if you're investing in some new facilities, you need to make sure, universities are very bad, to get the faculty up to that same level. They need to incentivize getting the faculty to that level to utilize the big investments that are made. So that is another concern. The third concern I have, and I suspect this is the case, is that the situation tends to be too local. Now, according to one of your former students, if you do the boards in order to get into the university, you have different boards in Sindh and in Punjab. And I think what you need to do, we're talking even local. You're too local. You need to have people from Sindh and Punjab and elsewhere mix it. So that helps country integration and again some exposure. Of course, the main thing, as spoken by both Ambassador Chowdhury and Ambassador Khan, is the fact that we need to promote international interactions. Obviously, historically, for prestige works reasons, as was mentioned, we have the UK and North America, Canada and the USA. Those are important things, but it is expensive. I think a better advantage needs to be made of other countries that may be less expensive. You have the advantage of being English speaking, which many countries, like I was just in Vietnam this year, don't have. So you have the advantage. So you should be utilizing contacts with South Africa, with Nigeria, with Australia, and even the smaller countries. For example, I've been very impressed with what I've seen in Malaysia. Obviously, that's not that big a country. You can't send 5 million Pakistani students there, but you need to be involved with these countries. Now, as was talked about, visits and exchanges are very important, but that only reaches a small percentage of your students, an important percentage, but only a small percentage. I have implemented in my lectures, for example, I get lectures, people to talk. We have Zoom, we have Skype, we have these tools. I get lecturers from like one semester in one class I had from 3 different continents. I had from South America, Europe, and Asia. Lecturer come in, talk about how they use this particular subject in their country. I think it is very important to do that. One thing that I've seen adopted is where students who are taking a particular subject, a particular course, have students at another university around the world taking the course at the same time, and these students act together. In my case, it's an engineering course. A good example is a very good program between the University of Illinois in the USA and an university in South Africa. I think you should consider some of this. This is a good way to go. You could have projects, let's say in science, you could have a project looking simultaneously at the air quality in Lahore and in Nairobi. In commerce, you could look maybe at exports to small nearby countries, like your exports to Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, and maybe at the same time, Nigeria to Ghana and Burkina Faso. Or engineering, even in the arts, you could have someone in literature working on post-colonial theory, and you could be comparing, let's say, in Nigeria, Things Fall Apart, which is a very famous English language story that is taught even in the school here in the US, even though it's from Nigeria. You could have that being discussed with people in Pakistan from your post-colonial writers, which you have some good ones. So again, as was mentioned earlier, you can have extended staff displacement or training. For example, I've worked in Kyoto University in Japan and the University of Applied Sciences in Dresden. I've gone to Malaysia. These all had a big effect on me and on my teaching. And perhaps I also changed the students in those places. Such travel is difficult due to political reasons, due to scheduling reasons, and of course, most of all, due to financial reasons. But it's not possible. It's not impossible. It can be done. As was mentioned earlier, this is a modern world. I have one son. My son is a product of a USA citizen and a citizen of India raised in the US. But right now, he works for a Japanese company. That Japanese company has a subcontract from Infosys, which is in India. They have placed him in a Mitsubishi plant in Japan, owned by Daimler-Benz of Germany. Sorry, this is the modern world. This is what your students and graduates will have to deal with. Now we are seeing, due to some of the particular politics, which unfortunately my country is leading, some nationalism and barriers being erected. But this globalization, in my mind, will remain. So in my talk here, trying not to go too long, I'm saying my advice is for the Pakistani tertiary education is to work to get more critical reasoning to replace rote memorization, to get more hands-on activities, but making sure that not only you get the facilities, the hardware or the software, but that you also get the faculty incentivized and working in the area, and international involvement, both people travels and perhaps some sort of usage of things like Zoom and Skype to have some sort of joint courses, or at least talking together. I realize this is an exciting program. We're out of time, but I would like to say this is my email. Feel free at any time to email me, and that's ufl.edu after that. So, thank you.